artwork in the world. My background, it goes back a long way, from 1962. Academically, I was very weak at school. What I had wasn't diagnosed. It was a cross between dyslexia and just a little bit of difficulties, academically. So school was miserable for me, so I had to find escapism. So what I did, I decided to escape from school a few times, which meant getting away. So what I did, I hid once in the shed at the bottom of the garden. My mother thought I was working at school, but what I did, I slipped away from school and hid in the shed. My teacher was humiliating me. She said I was a consequence of failure because I couldn't express myself, so it was quite miserable. But I found a way out, My world began when I saw some ants in the kitchen. My mother's kitchen, and I saw these ants moving around. And I asked my mother a question. I said to my mother, why did those ants do it in the kitchen? She said they have nowhere to live. So when she told me that, the first thing that went into my head was, if I made these ants some houses, they'll have somewhere to live. So I set about making houses. I found a piece of my dad's razor blade and broke it up and took a little piece of it and strapped it onto a matchstick, wrapped a bit of wire around it, and had this little tool. And I started slicing these little splinters of wood, and I constructed these little shacks. Some of them looked like little condos. This is where my world began. It was almost as though I was trying to see whether I could communicate with the ants. I used to pick the ants up and talk to them, but they never said anything. They didn't even want to pay me any rent. It was like the beginning. It was just escapism. I suppose it was me trying to express me. It's a reflection of me. It depicts who I am because they made me feel small at school. My school teacher said I was a consequence of failure, so I was looking for a way out. So I concentrated on this microscopic world. It was a world that nobody could see but myself, and nobody understood but me. But my mother seen it. My mother told me when she saw what I'd created for the ants, she said, the smaller you work, the bigger your name will become. So it was, that journey began from there to get smaller and smaller and smaller. Now here I am today, creating the smallest artwork in the world. I think 10 microns. I'm not quite sure, but it's smaller than a period stop in a newspaper. So I'm talking real small. Tools are very complicated. You have to make it yourself. If you imagine this is a needle here, I'm talking tools about 6 to, I would say 4 times smaller than that, but they have to be so thin and precise, and they have to have little hooks on the end and little claws, little blades. I have to make sure that everything that I use to do it is got to be small enough, and I have to adapt them to be able to cut and manipulate. My dexterity is very important because when I'm working, I work between my heartbeat. So I have to make sure the pulse in my finger doesn't interfere with what I do. So it's patience. I suppose even if you have a steady hand, it doesn't matter how steady your hands are. It's being able to create and to be able to move on this microscopic level. It's like trying to put a pin through a bubble without bursting the bubble, or trying to do microsurgery on an ant or something. So the whole thing is, it's a nightmare to do, but a dream when you finish. Some of the material medium is gold, fibres from the carpet, a grain of sand, made of a pencil, Kevlar, I'll use cable tie, various nylons, and anything that I find small and strong, a human hair, stuff like that. Well, they're the greatest basketball players in the world as far as I'm concerned, so I wanted to create the small tribute, but I wanted it to be the biggest tribute that they could ever have, because, you know, you get these guys 6'10", you know, nearly 7 foot in the eye of a needle, so, you know, I can say, honey, I shrank the king. Some can take 2 weeks, some can take 3, 5 weeks, even 2 months, 7 weeks. It depends if I make a mistake, or sometimes I can inhale my own work, which I have done. One time my cell phone went off and I went, as I was working through the microscope, I remember taking a deep breath like, oh, and I inhaled it. That's not a nice feeling. Especially if you spent a month and you're nearly finished. But I went again, you know, whatever goes wrong, you go and do it again. Yeah, this is my first time to battle, and it's an honour. I feel very privileged to be here. You know, I'll be able to show my work off to a lot of people, so they can see something they've never seen before. I want to make a micro celebrities, you know, because, you know, sometimes people like to see themselves in a different way, to see themselves through the eye of a needle. I like to see the shock on the face, you know. I like creating things for people when they want something. Oh, can you make me this? Can you make me a little bicycle? Can you make me that? You know, it's like satisfaction, because it's like when they see it, it's like they can't believe what they see. It becomes the biggest thing that they've ever seen, even though it's the smallest thing that they've ever seen. Well, my project is to get smaller. I have to honour my mother's words. Smaller. You know, I'm going to go for Noah's Ark. Noah's Ark on the end of an eyelash, with all the animals going up there, and Noah and his wife, giraffes, the whole lot, on the end of an eyelash, which is going to be the smallest thing I've ever done in my whole life. This is something that I'm working on, and the old lady that lives in the shoe, 25 children in the island needle, food in their house, everything. You know, I'm just going to take it to a level where they'll call me an alien. Miami, mid-block, and I'm right next to sugar cane, and my website is www, and it's WidganArt.com, www.WidganArt.com. You'll be able to find me there. My name is Willard Widgan, and I create art through the eye